Okay, so this right here's the tabular one, the method. So, my kids from last year called it the window method. Pretty much, this right here goes on the first term, and this right here goes on this term right here. And you just fill it in this x squared. This is a 3. Oops. And what you do next, guys, is you go ahead and multiply these two together. So 3 times x squared. So 3 times x squared gives me 3x squared. Okay, from here, you're looking for two terms, right? The two terms that will go inside these little other windows, right? That go ahead and multiply, that multiply to this and add up to 4x. So they multiply to 3x squared and they add to that middle term, 4x. So what do you guys got for me? Something that multiplies times 3x squared and adds up to 4x.
1 and 3.
Yep, 1, don't forget the x, 1x and 3x, right? If I multiply them, right, it gives me 3 and x times x is x squared. And if I add them, 1 apple plus 3 apples, it gives me 4 apples, right? So it meets both conditions. So I go ahead and put them here. So this will be my 1 apple, so 1x, and this will be 3x. Okay, any questions so far? Last but not least, guys, you just go ahead and check what they have in common. So common horizontally. So what do they have in common? The x, 2x squared, and the x. This is just x, no? They have in common is just x horizontally. And this right here, what do they have in common? 3x and 3. Hopefully you can see that they both have a little 3, right? So this is 3. And then you check what they have in common vertically. So vertically like this, they have what in common?
X.
Yeah, just an x. And then right here, they have nothing in common. 1x and 3, they don't have anything in common. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 1 because everything has a multiple of 1. So in reality, your answer is this right here. So it should be x, and the 3 is positive. So our answer is x plus 3. And this right here is also positive. It's going to be x plus 1. This right here is your solution. Any questions on that? Yes, no?
No.
Okay, I'll give you a couple more seconds in case you need to write that down. And that's honestly all we're doing, guys. We're learning how to factor in our limits. So you're going to have to do this first, and then you do our limits just by substitution. So if you choose to take calculus next year, this will be our chapter 1. If you take statistics, well, I'm still working on getting some material for you guys, and I'll teach that eventually. Alrighty, let's go to the next slide. And it's this one. So I'll give you a couple seconds to write this down. And if you have the answer, guys, I will gladly take it in the chat box if you happen to know the answer. If not, we'll go over it in a little bit. So what would be the answer to that? Okay, so let's go ahead and try it. So first, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and find out, hey, let's go ahead and see what happens if I direct substitution. So if I go ahead and, if I go ahead and do that, I put the -6 into all the x's, right? So I should have -6 plus 6, and then -6 minus 5, and -6 plus 6. So I have a big dilemma here, because this right here, -6 plus 6, right? -6 plus 6, what does that give me?
1. Oh, wait, no, 0. 0.
0.
Wait,
So
I thought you meant crossing them out.
yeah. So this would have been giving me 0 divided by -6 minus 5. That's -11 times 0. So I got 0 over 0. That is undefined. I have no clue what happens there. However, if we look at our notes from 10.2, it said that every time you have the same number on top, or the same expression on top and on bottom, what can we do with those two expressions?
Simplify to 1.
Yep, simplify to 1. So hopefully you see this right here and this right here. Are they the same? Oh my goodness. This right here and this right here are the same numbers. So therefore, I can go ahead and get rid of them because they equal to 1. What am I doing? Okay. So in reality, I got 1 over x minus 5. And my limit is going to -6. So if I substitute that limit inside, I got 1 over -6 minus 5. That gives me 1 over -11. That should be my answer. That is my limit. Any questions, guys?
No. I got it.
Yes, no, guys?
Mm-mm.
So pretty much factor first, then simplify, then substitute.
Okay.
Every single time. Because if you don't, guys, I promise you, this is gonna occur. The indeterminate. All right, let's go ahead and try another easy one. But now, I didn't factor it for you guys. This right here, x squared, x minus 6. I didn't factor it for you guys, so you're gonna have to do the little window once again. So, the little factor. So go ahead and try it first. Keep in mind, you will have to factor, so this x squared goes right here, and this -6 goes right here. So you're thinking of two numbers that multiply to -6x squared and add up to x. Remember, keep in mind that -3 and 3 would give me 9, and then yeah, don't forget the x's on the values. So yeah, so hopefully you're thinking of two numbers that multiply to -6. They are 2 and 3, but they also need to give you the x squared, so don't forget the x and the x. So this works perfectly fine, guys, but they need to add up to an x, so one of them has to be negative. So the bigger number always keeps the sign, so this x is positive, so the bigger number will keep the positive sign, so that means that 2 will be negative. So if I multiply -2 times 3, that's -6, and if I add them together, that is positive x. because I have 3 apples and I take away 2. That is a positive apple, a positive x. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in. This is 2x and this is 3x. And I do the same thing. Horizontally, what do they have in common? Well, they both have an x's, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that right there. So they both have an x, so this is gonna be an x right here. Horizontally, what do these guys have in common? The bottom horizontal. So right here, what do they have in common?
3.
A 3. And then vertically, what do they have in common? X, right? And vertically, what do they have in common?
-2.
A negative, because they both have negatives, right? And a 2. So in reality, this is x plus 3, and this is x minus 2. All of this is going to replace this right here. So I should have x plus 3 divided by the x plus 3, x minus 2. Okay, so a lot of stuff is going on, but hopefully you can still see that this right here, x plus 3, oops, I meant to do yellow, x, I got this x plus 3 and this x plus 3. What can I do with those two numbers? They're exactly the same. They're the same on top, same in the bottom.
They're holes. They're holes, so you could cross them out.
Yep.
Cancel to 1.
So it cancels to 1, it equals to 1. So I'm left with 1 on top, right? Over x minus 2. So as the limit, as x goes to -3, I should have 1 over -3 minus 2. So what would that give me, guys?
-1/5.
The 1 stays on top, and -3 minus -2, that's -5. That is your solution. Let me check the chat, please. Any questions, guys? So I'll give you a couple of seconds in case you need to write that down. So I think that the hardest part, guys, will be the factoring part, to be honest with you. Since I know in class we kind of didn't practice a lot this. We practiced it more in Algebra 2. But this is just factoring. If you know how to do it without this, guys, by all means, you don't have to do this at all. But this is just a nice little hint. Let's go ahead and try it one more time. And I got this example for the next one. Now, so this right here, if we substitute a 1, guys, if we try the 1 first, I'm going to go ahead and see that this is 1 minus 5 plus 4. That will give us undetermined. So that tells me, guys, I need a factor. So we're going to go ahead and factor. Okay. So for this one, unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to do 2 tabular, 2 tables, unless we can think about it on our head. So we think about 2 numbers that multiply to 4 and add to -5x. So 2 numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to -5. So I'll give you a couple seconds. That works for me, Delia. So I'll give you everyone else a couple seconds before I say Delia's answer. So 2 numbers that multiply to 4, that would be a 4 and a 1, right? However, they are asking for them to add to -5, right? So I have to make not only the 4 negative, but the 1 as well, because -4 times -1 gives me a +4, and if I add them, I get a -5. Just for practice, let's go ahead and do the tabular method for this one. So the x squared goes right here, and the -6 goes on this one. So I'm thinking of two numbers. I'm sorry, if I multiply this, I get -6x squared. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to -6x squared and that add up. Oops, what did I do? And that add up to negatives. I'm sorry, am I doing, guys? 5x. Cool. So two numbers that multiply to -6x squared and add up to 5x. If you got something, I'll take it in the chat box. If not, I'll give the answer in a little bit. So for sure x is right, for sure x is. And something that multiplies to -6. Six and one, let's go ahead and try it. 6 and 1, it's okay to make mistakes, if anything. So 6 and 1, one of them is going to have to be negative. And everyone in the chat box is saying that it's going to be a -6. So let's go ahead and check that out. So 6x times -x gives me -6x squared. So that works. So let's go ahead and add them together. Negative x, right? -1x plus 6x. And it gives me a +5. That works for me, guys. Way to go. So -x and 6x. Okay. So let's go ahead and check horizontally. So horizontally, what do these guys have in common? Hopefully you see it's just an x. And horizontally, what do these guys have in common? Just a 6, right? Let's go ahead and pick a different marker. Vertically, what do these guys have in common? Just an x. And vertically, what do these guys have in common? Negative for sure, right? But that's all I can see, so therefore it's a 1. So this right here, they're both positive, so it's going to be x plus 6. And this right here is going to be x minus 1. So you're probably thinking, okay, cool. What do I do with all this good stuff? Well, all this good stuff, you're going to go ahead and take it back over here. It's going to go back over here. So it's going to be x plus 6 and x minus 1. Guys, if you have questions, please stop me so I can help you guys out. I'm looking at this part right here, guys. I got the same number on top, same number on the bottom. By now in pre-calculus, we should know that that is equal to 1. So I'm left with, whoa, just kidding. I'm left with x minus 4 divided by x plus 6 as the limit as x approaches 1. So it's going to be 1 minus 4 and 1 plus 6. That is equal to 1 minus 4, that's a -3. And 1 plus 6 gives me a 7. That is my limit. Any questions so far, guys? Questions, guys? You could either message them privately or on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. questions, concerns, complaints? Yeah, so the only hard part I see here, guys, is the factoring. Other than that, these will be exactly like the homework from 10.2. Whoops, 10.2. Except I don't factor them for you like I did in 10.2. This you have to factor them for yourself, especially if you're gonna plan to go to the calculus part of this. If we don't have any more questions, guys, that's all I have for you. The homework is due Thursday. Um, if you guys feel like there's not enough time for you to do the homework, guys, please email me, send me a text message or whatever the case may be, so I can extend the deadlines, guys. As you guys can know, I'm also struggling too with keeping up with some of the stuff. So if you guys feel like you're struggling too, just let me know and I'll extend the deadlines.